Hey, everybody, welcome back to Contractor Radio, where we help contractors get control of their business so they can grow their business and hopefully find some personal and financial freedom. We mix in a little bit of entertainment, we mix in some special guests. We talk about high performance quite a bit. And today I have an amazing guest. I've been trying to get this guy for almost a year now, and we finally made it happen. And I couldn't be happier to have him on here because he's got a story to share that you're not going to want to miss. But before we get there, let's go ahead and take care of that thing that's got to get done, which is to pay the bills. And we're going to hear a little message from Get the Referral.
Who doesn't love getting more referrals? GTR will make your referral game stronger than ever with our 4-step process. First, engage with customers through job status updates and push notifications. Then, motivate your advocates to send referrals and earn rewards. Third, track and manage all of your results through your company's dashboard. And finally, sit back and enjoy achieving up to 40 times ROI. GTR is the #1 referral platform for contractors, so book your demo today at getthereferral.com.
All right, that was Get the Referral. If you have not checked them out, one of the things that we struggle with is we might get referrals, but tracking them, rewarding them, and doing the things we need to do with those referrals to get even more can sometimes be a challenge. Get the Referral solves that problem for you. So check them out if you get a chance. Today, like I said, I have a guest that I've been hoping to get on for a long time. I got to watch him from afar for a while because his social media presence is magnanimous to say the least. I got to be in an event with him almost a year ago, and a lot of what he was sharing aligned with me quite well. He is the man behind Roofers Helping Roofers, Jonathan Sherwood, the rock star of social media. Welcome aboard, man.
Hey, thanks, Jim. Just thankful and happy to be on the show today.
Yeah, this is one of those things. Like I have been so pumped to get you on and talk with you because when you gave your talk at the American Contractor Summit, I was like, roofers helping roofers. Like, how could anybody be more aligned with what we do? Like that's why we started this whole thing, was to help guys out in their businesses. And I listened to you talk and a lot of your values, your character. I went, man, that's really good stuff. I think he could be really helpful to our audience. And so we've been working on it. Super happy to have you on board. And let's talk a little bit today. You good with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
All
Pick
right,
my
cool.
brain, fire away.
So give us a little history, like a little run up. Like you run this Roofers Helping Roofers thing, and give us a little understanding of what that is and what led to that.
Yeah, sure. I'll kind of give you a little bit of the preamble that led up to it. And so I've been in the roofing industry now for, it's going on, I believe, 14 years. I originally started in the Denver, Colorado market. I worked for a roofing company out there for a short period of time, wasn't really taking roofing quite seriously yet, and really wasn't aware of what it could do for me financially. Ended up losing everything that I had when Dora and RESPA changed all the lending laws. And there was a gentleman that I knew at church who was doing inbound merchant services. So like credit card machines with problems for, like, at this point in time, like $8.25 an hour, and had like 4 kids. And he went into roofing and he did like 800,000 in revenue in a few months. And he was just a really nice guy, but wasn't a very good salesman. So I was like, man, if this gentleman can do it, I can definitely do it. I've been at this point selling drugs my whole life. I just got to flip it over to selling roofs. So I met with another gentleman. He's like, look, I got 15,000 in unemployment. His name's actually Greg Marthaler from SFY. A lot of people know who he is, the bigger gentleman. And he's like, when you're sober, you're the best salesman in shoe leather. If you stay sober, he's like, let's open a roofing company. So I left that other roofing company where I wasn't taking it serious. We opened a roofing company, had no idea what I was doing. Just went to like the rural outskirts in Colorado, like Morgan County, Fort Morgan, Akron, Sterling, border of Sydney, Nebraska, and was just knocking doors and selling old hail damage and claims. I realized how lucrative it could be and started taking it very seriously, getting educated on it, getting some certifications, and ended up branding that company and building it throughout the years. And then in September of 2016, I sold that company with my partner. It was G2 Roofing and Construction, to the regional operations manager of John Mansville. which was Robert Marshall. And he deviated Marshall Brothers for his sons to have something for them. And in that time, I was already going back and forth between Denver and Texas. And the reason being, I was predominantly all commercial at this point in foam and coatings. And there was obviously more opportunity in Texas. So they had a huge hailstorm 7 years ago in Denton, Texas. I had a guy come in my office in Colorado and he says, "Hey, look at this newspaper ad. Denton, Texas sees baseball-sized hail." He's like, "You should grab your P&L, show everybody what you can do, and just start knocking doors at roofing companies and see who wants you." So I talked to distribution, and they lined me up with a few people in Dallas. I went to a couple interviews, and then I found this small development company who had good resources, was selling a couple residential roofs, wanted to be in commercial, but they had a very good fix and flip thing going on, residential and commercial. Opened up the commercial department, moved to become the VP, got him in the top 150 roofing companies in the nation, posted, moved to the president's chair, and then said, "Man, I don't want to work for anybody, and I also don't ever want to own a roofing company again. I'm just going to become kind of a gun for hire." So then I just kind of was a gunslinger selling commercial for different companies, and had a real heart and passion for the industry, and was getting involved in stuff, and had the social media platform that I started several years ago. And that drew the attention of other roofers, and guys were just calling me, "Hey, how do you do this? Hey, I'm FaceTiming you. What do I do on here?" And I just started helping them, and they just started hashtagging it, "Roofers Helping Roofers." It was completely organic. We never planned it. We didn't know it was going to be a business. So then it becomes something. Then they start saying, "Well, can you do the job for me? Can you come put on the shirt and help me sell it?" So the industry actually built that business. So I ended up turning into a business and then trademarking it. That took about 2 years, and then just went with it. And it just opened up to this platform that was two types of clients. One, guys that were predominantly residential, let's say 80, 90% residential, 10, 20% commercial, or no commercial at all, which would go out there and duplicate myself in them, walk the roofs with them, put their shirts on, help them close the deals, help them bid the proposal, and then do the procurement and the fulfillment of the actual contract for them once they contracted I'd be the sub. Or some of the larger titans in the space that just wanted aggressive turnkey foam and coatings costs, and not to reinvent the wheel, and not me to really be known about much at all, just come through and knock out some of their big projects. That started rolling. And then I started offering consulting, where I would go out there and teach people what I was doing for the day, and then give them access to me for the year, along with a file vault that would consist of, different topic videos for foam and coatings, commercial contracts, sequence order of doing large projects and multifamily, and just stuck to the things I really knew, which was commercial sales, being multifamily, standalone, owner-operated, property management companies, HOAs, churches, things of that nature, strategic social media marketing, and foam and coatings. And it all just kind of evolved. Well, during that time, I was subcontracting all the foam and coating because, as I mentioned a moment ago, I didn't want to own another roofing company. I swore I would never own another roofing company. It was a nightmare. You didn't need to do it to have money, and you could make great money. Well, I needed the control over all the crews and all the foam rigs. So I partnered with a gentleman in the industry, Will Miller, who owns Priority, and we opened Surefire Seamless Systems. So now we have a national foam and coatings commercial company, and then the Roofers Helping Roofers platform that kind of work hand in hand with each other. And I did the one thing I said I would never do, and that's own another roofing company. So at this point, I say I'm all in. I'm not going anywhere. I love the industry. I love the people in the industry. I've met some of my best friends in this industry, and it's radically transformed my life for the greater good. And that's kind of a nutshell how the Roofers Helping Roofers came about.
That's a pretty wild story. First off, I don't know if you know this or not, but we've kind of followed the same path. I was just probably about a decade before you, owned a roofing company, did really well, sold it. I said, "Hey, I know this roofing thing, and I don't need to own a roofing company to make money. Maybe I'll just do this consulting thing." And so that's what I was. I was a consultant, but my consulting was more not with the contractor, but with the property procurement company, whoever it may be. If it was a homeowner association, it was a management company, development company, any of those type of things. I showed them what I could do and how I could prevent risk for them. And when risk did step in place, I could solve big problems for them really fast. And that went really good. And I sold that thing too, to get into software, which I don't know what I was thinking. But yeah, it's a pretty similar path, but I have a feeling you know it quite a bit better than what I did, because I didn't keep on going down that path like you have. Um, so why did you want to like? Did it start out like, hey, I'm going to go and be like the hired gun, like you said, a little bit like a true 1099, like way 1099s are supposed to work? Like you
Yeah, I
work for
was a
somebody and go sell a
true
job.
1099 and just really just wanted to be a gunslinger. That's it. I had said, listen, I've been through the different uh, facets of the roofing industry, and I know what I like, and I really like selling commercial roofs, and I really understand low slope, and I don't need to own a company, and I can just remove the liability by giving away some of the money out of it. And once I leave that roof, I mean, as long as the company that I'm selling for is good, I'm done. It's just like the difference between commercial airlines and private, right? When you're done with a commercial airline at American Airlines, when I walk off the plane, I'm done with it. When you own a plane, you are not done with it, you know? So it's like, I wanted to remove the liability so I could spend more time on the revenue, because at that point in time, that's where my mindset was at. You know, I had sold my business. I'm like, I don't need to own another roofing company. I have this nest egg. Now it's time to become an entrepreneur. I can own different types of companies. You know, they don't have to be roofing. And I did a lot of other different things, but it ended up full circle because the platform that I created, I was like, okay, my name is everything. My brand is everything. I want to take care of these people. I need control of the actual application that's going on and the warranty claims and everything if I'm going to be all over social media and branding myself. So it just came back to own another roofing company because that was the only way to do it appropriately.
That's actually a good reason. I've sworn the same thing. Like, hey, I am not ever going to own another roofing company. Everybody asked me like, well, because if you don't know my history, you don't know that I owned a roofing company. So there's some of this thing like, well, people that don't know how to do coach, right? Like you hear that all the time. Like, no, I kind of know how to do this. Like, we're okay.
I just don't want to do
Yeah,
it.
I just don't want to do it anymore. I
Yeah.
understand what it entails, and I've kind of been able to put back what I need to put back. And to be honest, I kind of want to just get back to the industry that was very good to me. Like it created a lifestyle that not many people achieve, and so that was a bit of my reasoning. So through all this, you became like this social media like megastar, and it was almost overnight. It seemed like to me. I know it probably wasn't, but it seemed like that to me. Like I'd never heard of Jonathan Sherwood, and then all of a sudden there's like a Facebook story, and then there's a post, and then there's this roofers helping roofers hashtag. I'm like, who is this guy? Where did he come from? Was it an overnight thing like that, or
It's been like a accumulation over the last, I think it's going on 4 years. And I didn't have any social media. I had, when I got divorced, got rid of my Facebook, and I wasn't real active on it anyway. I was like, I'll never have Facebook again. And I had an issue being moldable and pliable within the industry. Part of it was, unfortunately, at that time, was pride. And my pride told me, hey, I'm making great money. I don't need to do anything any different. I don't need to use technology. I don't need to do this. This is how I want to do it. And I realized after seeing Gary Vee that I needed to be more moldable and pliable. He talked about, I will never forget what he said. He said, there's thousands of you in here today, and one of you will actually do this. You will document what you're doing and give the value away for free. And then that will end up helping you make and bring resources. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do what this guy said to do, and I'm just going to go all in and try it. So I hired a videographer, photographer, editor at that time. And it really, in the beginning, it was a lot because it just was like another job. It's like on top of everything I was doing, I had to film it all the time. And then on top of that, it's like I had no idea what I was doing in the front of a camera. So like what I could do now in one take might have took an hour before. So it was additional work that I was paying for, not even getting paid for, paying for. And it wasn't until probably 8 months into it, we started gaining some traction, plus learning what we were doing. And I don't think I got my first 7-figure roof out of it till after a year. Now we have the thing rolling to where we get probably 3 to 5 organic opportunities every week, maybe even a little more than that we can vet through and kind of choose who to work with. And if we can't service them, we'll still plug them in with people, just depending on a lot of factors go into it, where they're at, size of it, does it make sense, things of that nature. And then we probably get several for just the consulting alone. But it really got rolling, I would say, between the year to year and a half mark, and it's just taken off since then. And then, we just try to learn how to handle it and just kind of matured with it, because it was something I wasn't really used to. And then I realized, like, hey, not only is this a platform that's that's creating monetary value to me, but there's a lot of people that are looking to me that just want to relate with me because of the story of redemption, or just because of my kind of very brash and upfront, this is what I struggled with. This is where I messed up. I failed my way to success. It's not that I'm not great at that great at what I'm doing. I just messed up that much that it looks like I'm really good now. And I just been very upfront about it. And that brought a lot of people that just started reaching out about stuff that had nothing to do with roofing, substance abuse, domestic violence, just how money management. I've had people that were just, I've spent countless times on the phone just talking to guys on my truck on Bluetooth, and they're in their truck about life. And they're just like, thank you for even answering. I didn't think you'd answer my Facebook Messenger and stuff. But I see where God took what he gave me and then gave me an opportunity to be used at an even different level that's way better than any type of roofing that we could ever do.
That's the fun part, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That part where you get to dig into people and not business. That's the fun part for me. This whole, I've got an issue, I've got a problem, and it doesn't have anything to do with business. It just has to do with life. And it's fun to walk that path with people and see them succeed, see them get through it. Because a lot of times it's just the vulnerability aspect of it, like telling somebody this is the thing in your world is the hardest and biggest first step. So many people like have those things hidden behind closed doors. Nobody's posting on Facebook that they're out doing drugs or drinking and getting hammered and hung over and all that stuff, right? They're not posting the dark side of their world. And so for them to reach out to you and interact with you on that, how'd that make you feel?
It did more for me than I think I was ever able to do for them. I believe that, for one, just the fact that, God can take a angry, violent, bound, addicted man that should have been dead and should have been in prison, and on top of all of that, definitely should not be successful, and radically change my life to glorify the gospel. Just that alone is it still blows my mind. And when I think about it, it's just like, I just can't believe where God's taken me. But I know that he took me there because this is not about me. And that was one of the things when I say the maturity. When I started getting the exposure, I'm only carnal, it's like, oh my goodness, these people are watching me, deals are coming in, this is great. And yes, I want to do good for people, but I'm a man and I still have a carnal mind, and there's still pride in there time to time, and there's still going to be fear in there and doubt in there. I'm like, oh, and I had to come to the realization where I think a lot of the maturity set in, like, this is not for me. He did not do this for me. When I go up and get to speak at a conference, or people are watching my videos, or I get to share my testimony, or we're having a time like this, he did this for the people that are listening. And as long as I make sure that I always know that it's him that's doing this, and in him I live, move, and have my being, and it's for the people that are listening, then it's the greatest thing ever, because that's when you see the biggest impact.
It is this thing though, like, we're guys, we've got egos. Like you mentioned the word carnal. It's like a part of our own human behavior that we have to guard against all the time. There's greed and pride and sloth and all those 7 deadly sins and all that stuff, right? And when you come to this realization that everything I say when I have a platform is being analyzed, it's absolutely being analyzed. And a lot of people are there going, hey, I want to listen to this guy. But there's also a lot of people going, I want to take this guy down. How do I find a chink in his armor, right?
Yeah.
And I want to talk to you about that a little bit. I also want to talk about this redemptive story, because you've bounced back and forth a couple of times here, like sold drugs, bad background, and then God, right? Like there's that going on. And so I want to talk about maybe that critical point. I think those critical times in our lives where motive changes. The motive, you see it in every Marvel comic. The way Two-Face was created, or the way Penguin was created. There's something bad happened to them, and so now they have a grudge, and that's why they are the way they are. But it also happens on the hero side of it. So I want to dig into that a little bit with you, if that's okay with you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to get a little message from Signpost, one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back with Jonathan Sherwood.
Want more 5-star reviews from your customers? At Signpost, we make it easy for your customers to give you great reviews on Google, Facebook, Yelp, and more. Our software connects with industry-specific solutions, driving even more reviews from your customers. Drive loyalty and repeat business by sending the right messages at the right times to your prospects and customers. Message your contacts from anywhere, anytime, using text, photos, and video all in one app. Check on progress of campaigns and review generation across Google, Facebook, and Yelp. Visit signpost.com and get your demo today.
That's a little word from Signpost, Jonathan. I don't know if you've ever met the people at Signpost. They're amazing, and they're really good at not only keeping that connection going between their customers, but generating new prospects. So any of you out there looking to upgrade that website and really create that connection with your clients and prospects, Signpost is the place to go. So Jonathan, redemptive story, right? There's something happened. What happened? What was the critical point, the tipping point?
So sorry, elaborate on it a little bit more. What happened when everything I finally
was it a gradual thing, or was it
yes,
was it a prayer moment, snap of the finger?
No, it was a gradual thing, and that was actually one of the things that was hard for me. I mentioned some of the things that I was bound by earlier. It was substance abuse, all different types. I was a heroin addict, a drug addict, an alcoholic. I had an issue with women, womanizer, and I was a very violent man. Everything, I couldn't process emotion correctly. Everything led to anger, and anger typically led to violence. Pretty common with a lot of men in my situation. No father, mother did well in the beginning, and things just kind of fell apart. She had her own struggles, and the reality of it is, it's just I'm the one that broke the generational curse. We had a lot of just really evil men and women in my bloodline, in my lineage, and it stopped with me. And so was involved in organized crime, which was just at one point was going to be charged with the RICO Act, which is the distribution of narcotics through a drug syndicate. In layman's terms, drugs come to the U.S., break them down in large quantities, give them to people to sell. They pay us when we're done. That case was coming down. I can't get into too much of the details of it, but I ended up being the miraculous intervention of God, and I didn't get prison time for that, and I'm free today. But once I was done with my approximately decade tenure of that type of distribution of narcotics, I was left with just a broken man. So now I was violent, an addict, and lost, but broke. So I didn't really know how to process emotions or doing any things. And I ended up finding God, and I would have thought that, I would have found God and then all would have been better, because I saw a lot of people that when they met God, they just never used drugs again. And they just got this, they were just completely free, and the chains were broken on strongholds of their life. That wasn't the case with me. I was a very double-minded man, and very I loved God with all my heart. I believe there was a call of God on my life, and he had spared my life to be used by him, but I just couldn't manage to get it straight. I did stop doing heroin. I stopped selling drugs, but I lied about my life, and it didn't really get into any of the details with the anger and the self-hatred that I had about myself, and all the broken relationships and the way I felt towards people, and the alcoholism. And I had an event that ended up happening to me. I think it's about probably 6 years ago at this point. And it was the line in the sand for me. I ended up hurting somebody close to me. And I was like, okay, I have to deal with this stuff. And what ended up actually transforming my life, other than the grace of God, was I did years of cognitive behavioral therapy. And that was something happened. When that event happened, what was I thinking immediately? If I was to do what I was thinking immediately, what would the outcome be on my life? And now that I know what the outcome would be on my life, what would I choose to do? And I had to work through those exercises, hundreds of those sheets all the time, and talk to the cognitive behavioral therapist until I could just process it on my own. Once I could process on my own, I had to stop hating myself. And I had to learn empathy, sympathy, how to be vulnerable with people, how to love myself, how to love other people. And then after that, I was still left with alcoholism, so I'd made all these changes. It was great. Business is good, but I was still a drunk. And I had never got freedom from the alcoholism. And, I would try Celebrate Recovery. I'd try church. I'd white knuckle it. And it wasn't until I met Paul Reed and actually got in recovery and really started working the program that I got free from that. My sobriety date is June 8th of 2020 was the last time that I took a drink. So that was huge for me. That's when things really started changing. And that's when I watched God really start doing all the stuff that was prophetically spoken over my life. And I started to watch where I walked into a season where the plan, the purpose, the call, and the destiny of my life was going to come to pass. Because all of my life up until now, if you were to ask me, was I doing what I was supposed to be doing? No. I was doing parts of it, but not the fullness of God. And it's not to be a social media platform and do commercial roofs all over the nation. That's where the Lord started it. But I believe that the roofing industry is a platform to see lives changed. And I believe the black and white upfront approach and the rigorous, transparent honesty of the struggles and the strongholds in my life will give people what it takes to try to step out and make changes in their life. Because, we always wait for some knight in shining armor to come change everything. We think there's going to be this guy that comes out or this woman that's going to come out and they're going to make all these changes. But you never know what God does to a man or a woman in the prayer closet. And if you were to see me in the spiritual realm, I'd have so many stitches and bandages and broken bones and everything that I definitely wouldn't look like a knight in shining armor. And you read the Bible, that's the kind of men and women that God uses. And that's, I believe, the kind of men and women that we need in this time, in this generation, and in this season. And I'm just thankful that I know I'm in the right place at the right time. And I don't know how he's going to do it, but I'm just going to be open to let him do it. And I'm going to let him do it with my platform.
That might be the best 5 minutes we've ever had on this show. That is, I wish more people would understand that it's not about us, it's about them. It's really kind of what it is. And the more that we do that, the more that we find unity and not disparity, the more that we come together with people that are maybe not so much like us. Like, I don't know, maybe when you and I were kids, we probably wouldn't have hung out too much, would be my guess. But here we are today, hanging out and having a great conversation. You mentioned that it wasn't this snap of a finger thing. This was transformational over like how many years?
So I got saved when I was 18. I backslid a lot. A lot. I got off the heroin and stuff like in the early 20s. I still partied and slept around a lot and did all this stuff and was hanging out in the streets and stuff for quite some time. I would say the real change, I believe, manifested when I got involved in cognitive behavioral therapy. And that's probably going on 6 years.
What brought you to that?
So I had tried everything. I had an event in my life that I'm not going to get too in detail, but I hurt one of the closest people to me. And I was like, okay, this cycle of recidivism is not ending. It made me hate myself even more. And I was like, if you're really sorry for this one, you'll change. And at that point, I wouldn't do it for me because I hated me. I hated who I was. And it hurt me enough. So I went to a pastor and he said, listen, I know this therapist in Dallas. He's a cognitive behavioral therapist. I didn't even know what that meant. He goes, you should really go and see him. And I went and saw him, and I did not want anything to do with the guy. And I'd walk in. I remember every time I'd walk in, he goes, how angry are you today? That's the first thing he'd ask me. I'm like, man, who the freak is this guy? How angry are you today? You know, we did the dog and pony show in the beginning. I'd make fun of him. I'd make fun of the stuff in his office because I couldn't really, what it was is just, I just couldn't deal with any emotion. But I finally was like, I'm going to give myself to this. And I wasn't court ordered or anything like that. And I just gave myself to that. And when I let him work on me, I read a lot of books on the crime that I had committed, the things that I had done to the people that I hurt. And it said that 98.7% of men will not recover from the man that I was. And that less than 3% would recover. And I read 2 different books that said that. And I was determined to be the man that recovered from that. And once he changed my thinking, I thought, oh, hooray for me. Yay, I'm different now. And then it was time to deal with the alcoholism. And once I got free from the alcoholism, that's when everything, I feel like, it just took a major turn to where I feel like I was beginning to walk into a season of fulfilling the purpose on my life. And that's what was huge. So long road, but I would say all of 6 or 7 years. And then out of that 6 and 7 years, the last year and less than just under a year and a half since June 8th has been really remarkable.
What a cool story. Like, I'm grateful that we had time to hop on today and talk about this, because I don't think most people are. I think we envision it and our perception is it's a snap of a finger, but it's not. And we've all, I mean, I've got my own vulnerable moments. I've shared them on here before, that I've had my own issues, and still do. I don't think we ever get rid of issues. We just, it is part of the human thing, right? But you said something, and you said it at least 3 times, maybe 4. You used it whenever you were talking about Gary Vee. You used it in this cognitive behavior therapy, and you used it with how you're working with these contractors, that you turned yourself over to it. Explain what you mean by that.
So when I say like I turned myself over to it, it's I went all in. Went all in, meaning I made the decision that I was going to do whatever it took to be successful at that. Like I was going to, you know, it might be hurry up and wait. It might be time. It might be additional things I have to work on to get there. But that, like, I was going to, the Gary Vee model, I'm going to go all in. I was going to turn myself over to it is what I was going to do. I made that decision. You know, the cognitive behavioral therapy, I knew that it could transform me. Nothing else worked. I was going to turn over to it, go all in. So for me, it'd be an all in perspective. I mean, whatever it takes.
So many people, I mean, you mentioned a percentage, 98.7 or something like 96.7% of people, same situation as you, didn't or don't make that choice. Is that a thing that is naturally Jonathan? Just he's a determined, driven individual, is super competitive and uber, or is there something else there?
So if you would have asked me that question a year and a half to 2 years ago, I would have said that I was extremely driven and that I was choosing not to be a statistic. But the reality of it is, and I can't answer it, but God chose me. And God chose me and anointed me to do it. And I don't want to die not fulfilling the call on my life. So he's empowered me to get done what needs to be done. But I had to get over myself. And I still have to get over some of the things that I'm dealing with. But it's spiritual progression, not spiritual perfection. But I'm in a place now where he can do more in a month than he could ever do in a year, because I'm moldable and pliable, which I never was before. And I'm accountable, which I never was before. It's not, you know, when you're the kind of man that I was, you play God. You know, I had this list of just under 180 people, places, institutions that wronged me, God forbid they wronged this drug dealer gangster guy. You know, they wronged me, and it was everybody else's fault. And it was my mother's fault and my dad's fault because he wasn't around, and all these people, why I did what I did. And then if you did something to me, oh, how dare you do this to me? Don't you know who I am? I'll show you. That's playing God. Instead of looking at where was I to blame? Where was I at fault? What could I have done different? Where did I create bitterness? Where did I create jealousy? And start looking at things and looking at that I just became the people that hurt me the most, which was a choice, regardless of what anybody wants to think. So now I understand that it's not me. And yes, I may be a driven entrepreneur individual, but I'm just here because God lets me be here. I'm just not that damn important. And I had to get over myself with that.
There's a lot of truth to that. None of us are that damn important. We're here for a reason. I firmly believe that. This isn't what I would call a religious podcast, but I think that this is a great place for today, because I think our just planet in general, and especially our nation, is hurting from it. This idea that we are our own little gods, right? And we control all of our own destiny. And there's a lot of that machismo aspect of things, and anything less than that is a sign of weakness. And I wouldn't say, I think it actually takes more strength to be vulnerable and honest and transparent than it does to hide it all.
And I think what's great about it is that, people that are viewing this and listening, here's the thing. I'm really not a fruit nutter flake. I don't just go around saying Jesus this and Jesus that and laying hands on people. It's like that. I just happen to be a Christian. But the reality of it is, if it wasn't for God holding back at death, holding back accident, holding back prison and stuff, I wouldn't even have the opportunity to be here to talk about it. And the greatest thing is so simple about it, right? If he could do it with me, then he can do it with anybody listening. Anybody, regardless of what their situation is.
That there is so much truth to that. And you see these stories, right? Like you're one of the 1%, like these stories of people that like get out of it. But I think it has a lot to do with that whole willingness to turn over aspect that you have, that you, however, came to a realization of, because I think the first thing you turned yourself over to was God. And while you didn't magically take a next step that was like everything's solved and everything's great and everything's wonderful, you took a step. And that was just because of that. Hey, okay, I'm turning myself over. What do I do next? You went, okay, I'll do that next. And then there was a next, and there. Is that a fair assessment of it?
Oh, that's absolutely accurate. I wanted it to be a hot flash and a cold chill, and bam, no more drinking, no more smoking, no more doing anything, living great, doing all kinds of stuff, being involved in all kinds of things for God. It definitely not how it played out. It was a long road, but I wouldn't change it for anything. I wouldn't change it for anything. And there was times where I never would have thought I would say that, but I learned a lot. I paid a lot of dumb tax, and God got me through it with grace.
How do you handle the responsibility of it now? Like, you're out there, you're putting yourself out there today. So with that, every decision we make as a return on an investment, right? I walk with that mantra every day of my life. The decision to put Jonathan on the podcast, there's a return on investment. May not necessarily be for me, maybe for you, but there is a return on this time that we're spending together. And so each and every decision we make has that. And you made a decision, hop on it down, be open with Jim, we'll talk about whatever. And you've had other conversations like this. This isn't the first time. You had a pretty cool experience at RoofCon, which kind of brought this on. And how do you handle the responsibility of it?
I didn't really used to even think about it like that until a while ago. It just was kind of all happening. I'm like, this is great. And then, which I mentioned, I think once or twice in this conversation already, there was some maturity involved. I had to mature as a man a little bit more. And I had to understand, like I said earlier, that I'm not doing this for me, that God had placed me here, and that people were watching me. And I didn't used to realize how many people were really watching me. until I'd go somewhere and they're all coming. I'm like, man, these guys are really watching this. Because, roofers aren't very nice when it comes to social media, man. I could have 800 views and 40 likes. It's like, I don't know if they like me or don't like me. It's like, there's a rough crowd. But, I realized that a lot of people had eyes on me. And that if people were going to have eyes on me, it was like, what's going to be coming out of me? So for me, it took some maturing, and I'm still working on some stuff. Things that I struggle with from time to time is keeping myself humble, not letting pride get in there, not starting to think, oh, I'm doing this because I'm not doing it. And then saying, okay, if it all was over tomorrow, would you be happy with what you were left with? Or would you be happy with how that went by? And just really trying to remember that, no matter what happens, especially when I'm being pressed, whatever is coming out of me, that's what people are seeing. And I've gone through some pretty difficult stuff in the industry lately. And it's like, I believe those things have helped develop me for, what it is that I'm supposed to be doing here in the future. But I think that just making sure that I'm aware that I've been put in a position to influence other people, not for anything special that I've done, but that I was just blessed to be in that opportunity, and that need to make sure that whatever's coming out of me, I shouldn't have to say I'm a Christian. I shouldn't have to say or speak any type of certain things. People should be able to look at me and be like, that guy loves God. And so it's just trying to make sure that's what happens.
It's been my attitude about it. And here's what I've noticed, and you tell me if you've noticed this. My intention from the beginning with this whole coaching thing was to hopefully impact people in a Christ-like way, like that type of leadership, without saying, hey, look at me, I'm a Christian. Yeah, let's talk about the Bible verse of the day and all that other good stuff, right? Like, I think some of that tends to drive people away. My thought process was, through my actions, they will know who I am. And what I've noticed is that the more I do that and the more consistent I am about it, the more opportunity I get to talk about Christ, the more opportunity I get to talk about God without feeling like I'm pushing it down somebody else's throat or preaching about it or anything like that. It's just, it becomes very natural. Do you see that as like those opportunities starting to present themselves for you?
Absolutely. It's they just kind of pop up without even like today. I didn't think that we were going to be talking about
Me either.
as much spiritual stuff as we talked about today. It just kind of happened. And I think we're within, not just within the industry, but just within the world. I think we're in the perfect environment for God to work some of the greatest miracles that any of us have ever seen. And in order for that to happen, it's got to start getting stirred up. So it's just happening. So it's like, I have people all the time that I never would even thought were believers or thought about believers that only talked about work, be like, hey man, where do you go to church at? And, I've been doing this or I've been doing that. It's just coming up all the time right now. You can just see it coming up right now.
I firmly believe that's a spirit movement. It just is. Like, hey, we're not controlling it. We're not manipulating it. It's just, it was a little step and then a little step, a little opportunity, and those opportunities keep growing. And we have this decision. When the next opportunity gets put in front of us, what do we do with it? Do we handle it the right way, or do we make the poor decision? And I see so many that are in positions of leadership in the Christian community that they're on the right path, and then all of a sudden something gets in there that goes, okay, could I put a little more money in my bank if I did this, like that part of it? And I always hope and pray that that's not the case. I just want to see people genuinely do it for the right reasons. So we're getting close to end of time here. I mean, I know you got asked this question, but it is actually the question I normally finish my podcast with. I don't know if you've ever listened to it before, but I usually will ask 3 questions, but this particular one I try to ask every single time. We all have this time that's coming for us, right? There's an end to all things. And so when that time comes, What do you want people to say about Jonathan Sherwood?
That he
They're all
fulfilled.
gathered there to celebrate, I hope, your life. What do you hope they say?
I would like them to say that I fulfilled the call, the plan, the purpose, and the destiny on my life. That's what's more important to me than anything else. And I'm not going to sit back and be that guy that gets old in the hospital bed, that isn't able to do it any longer. And that's all I care about. That's it. If I changed my life to get to where I'm at now, and I went through the cognitive behavioral therapy and all the things that happened, and I didn't fulfill the plan, the purpose, and the destiny, then I failed. But the great thing is, nobody reads books about people that are still alive. They read books about people that are dead, because it's not about anything other than how you finish. And God's not finished with me yet. And I know I can't tell the future, and anything could happen to me. And by God, I hope I don't get hit by a car for saying this as soon as I leave here. But I'm just going to keep taking step after step towards that goal. And I believe I'm on the right path, and I'm right where I'm supposed to be.
Well, I'll say this. If you ever need anything from me and help along that path in any way, whether to support, encourage, or just be a part, you can always call me. Seriously.
I'm going to take
The
you
other
up
thing,
on that.
please do. I wouldn't. I don't throw that out there lightly. I mean,
no, I appreciate that. Well, you spent an hour talking to me the other day, and I really appreciated that.
It's so what you said there with how you want to be remembered is, if you were to put it into a nutshell, as a man of strong character. And to be a man of strong character is hard. It's way harder than I think anything else out there. That and the ability to just love, regardless of condition, right? You don't say, hey, I love these people, but not those people, right? I mean, those people are those people, so I don't love them, but I love these guys. That's not the way it works. I think those are two of the hardest things to do on the planet. And I don't know if I really have an answer on how to make them easier. Do you find those things being hard to do? Like this strong character thing? Yeah.
The strong character? Oh man, the strong character, man, is one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. Handling decisions appropriately and being the best Christian you can be during them is super freaking hard.
Well, super hard. There's fear, right? There's fear. I think is
fear, doubt, worry, and it's all stuff we're not supposed to be dealing with. But again, we have a carnal mind, and it's really hard sometimes for me to say, okay, God, I'm going to cast my care on you who careth for me, and believe to let him do it for me, because I'm John and I want to do it myself because I'm strong. And that's when it all goes to crap. So it's like learning how to bridle my tongue and give it to God and do the best Christian decision that I can make is not always what I want to do. Nowhere near what I want to do. I'm like, you want to hear what I have to say? Let me tell you this. Is like, no. That's living on John's terms, not on God's terms. And that's how I got myself in the mess in the first place.
Yeah, if I lived on my terms, I'd probably be retired right now. I make some really bad decisions. Now, I said I don't know if I really know the answer to it, but as you were talking there, by being a person that does the hard thing of chasing strong character, does it make it easier to love?
Yes, for me. And that's because I just didn't love anything for so long. So I can only speak from my experience, hope, and strength. And that's, yes, it's much easier for me to love now. I know how to love. I did not know how to love before. At first, I had to learn how to love myself. That was really hard. Probably the hardest thing I ever did in my life. And then learn how to love the people close to me, regardless if they did something that hurt me or not hurt me. And then learn how to love unconditionally. But here's the cool thing, right? And this is just my opinion. People don't come to know Christ and change their life because they say a prayer of salvation, or they go to church, or they walk up to the front and the preacher prays over them, right? People change their life when people love on them when they're not loving themselves and they don't feel loved. And that's when they know Christ is real. When you love on them.
You said almost the exact same thing. When you love on people in their darkest times, that's when they know Christ is real. I wrote it down. It was so impactful to me when you said it the other day in our private conversation that I wrote it down. I literally put it on the board. Like that's it. That's what I call a brain tattoo. It's one of those things you go, oh, tattoo that in the mind. I want to put it on the wall. I want to read it over and over again because I want it to become a part of me. I want to thank you for that. Like that was, I don't know if you're the person that came up with it, but if it was, like kudos to you. That is a great approach to understanding what I think love truly is. Loving people when they don't deserve to be loved. It's hard to do.
Very hard.
Hey man, this has been awesome. I want to keep talking to you for hours. Like I want to go hang out with you and spend some time with you. And I've noticed this about conversations, and I'll put this out there for everybody. And Nathan, you know Nathan, he's the same way about this as I am. Conversations don't really start until about 20 or 30 minutes in. Like
I agree.
You're kind of getting through the surface level stuff, and you're kind of measuring what can I say and what can I not say and that kind of stuff. But once it gets past 30 minutes and really an hour, like you get into an hour and then you're really like deep and digging. Yeah. Dude, those are some of the most amazing conversations. So I hope at some point we get an opportunity to have one of those conversations.
Yeah. I'm going to see you this week.
Hey, well, you never know. We might make that happen.
Yeah. We were trying to catch up with each other for a year now. This is the second time I've talked to you already back to back. So I think that's awesome, man. The privilege is all mine. I appreciate it, man. I even appreciate you inviting me on your show and carving out time to spend time with me. Not only did you spend time with me here, but you spent time just to help me the other day. And that actually had a lot of weight on me and needed to hear that. So that was really cool, man. I appreciate you.
Anytime. It's we are here on this planet to love one another, and whatever I'm going to do to fill that gap, I will do what I got to do. I just kind of let God put those things in my path for me. Hey, man, thanks for being on the show today. If you could hold on for just a second. Can you hold on for just a second? I got to close it out, and I want to come back and talk to you for just a second.
Yes, sir.
All right, everybody. That was Jonathan Sherwood. Wow, that went in places I wasn't exactly expecting it to go today, but I am honored, first off, that Jonathan would feel comfortable enough to share with us, and grateful for the fact that we had an opportunity to share with you guys. I hope it had an impact on you today. I hope that any of you that are struggling out there with addiction and you're in the roofing industry or really kind of a contractor, check out this Roofers in Recovery thing. It has done some amazing things. Jonathan, great example of the results of that program. Take time today to evaluate yourself. Take time to figure out who you're made of, and what your character is going to be, and the difficult decisions you have to make and the return on investment of those decisions. If you need any help with us, you can reach out to us here at Contractor Coach Pro. You just go to our website, contractorcoachpro.com. If you just want to talk to me, and I'm sure Jonathan, he'll put some information out there available as well on this post. But if you just want to talk to me, head coach at contractorcoachpro.com. If it doesn't even have anything to do with business, that's fine. You need somebody that you feel like you can just have listen. That's what we're here for. Thank you for being on our show today. Thank you for being attentive today. And we'll see you in our next episode.